friends, it's Jordan and welcome. That was a really loud clap. Let's try it again. Hi friends, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be telling you all about the next 5 books that I read in 2021. If you didn't see my previous video, I talked about the first books 1 through 5 that I read this year, and in this one we'll talk about, what, 6 through 10? That's how math works. I explained it a little bit in that video, but I will quickly reiterate it here. I haven't been reading very much in 2021, and I definitely have been reading enough to warrant any kind of like monthly wrap-up situation, which is what I have typically done on my channel for the last 6 years. I had my 6-year BOOKTube anniversary while I was unavailable from the internet space. Doing things a little bit differently right now. I don't know how long this is going to be in this format, but at least for the time being, this is the pace that I'm reading books at, and so this is like the best format to talk about them. Let's go ahead and get into books 6 through 10. I've only read 11 books this year, so after this we'll pretty much be caught up. So I try to scoot my chair forward. In this video, I will be talking about You Have a Match by Emma Lord, Lore by Alexandra Bracken, Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahurin, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, and The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. All right, so the first one that I read was You Have a Match by Emma Lord, which is her sophomore novel. Her first book was Tweet Cute, which is one of my favorite books from last year. I absolutely adored Tweet Cute, so I was very excited for You Have a Match. I believe I listened to this one on audiobook, and I still really enjoyed this, but not as much as Tweet Cute. Tweet Cute was just like this perfectly adorable teen romance, whereas this was a little bit more familial based, actually much more familial based. And I feel like it could be a much touchier subject for readers. In this book, we are following Abby, who has a massive crush on one of her childhood best friends, Leo, which she refers to as like the big embarrassing incident because a thing happened that like really tainted their relationship. Abby is like stressed about their friendship. She agrees to submit her DNA to a DNA website with Leo because Leo's trying to learn more about his family, being that he is, I believe he's adopted. In support of being a friend, trying to recover from this incident, submits her DNA results as well. And she finds out that she has a secret older sister that was put up for adoption that her parents never told her about. They make contact over this and decide to sneak away together to a summer camp that the older sister works at to try to get to know each other more. Definitely see how these 2 teenage girls digging into the past traumas of their parents' lives like could really rub people the wrong way. But I did also just like really enjoy these 2 sisters becoming friends and bonding together. I could totally see if you had submitted your DNA randomly to a website and found somebody, and like kids with their connectivity these days would absolutely like do this. I feel like this was a very accurate representation of how this would go down. I think that like a teenager would really connect to this. I did really enjoy it. I get like the criticisms of the handling of the adoption stuff and like how the teenagers approached these very sensitive topics that their parents were the ones involved in. I am definitely gonna be reading more from Emma Lord. I'm excited to see what else she puts out in the future. The next book that I read was Lore by Alexandra Bracken. If you've been on my channel for any length of time, you know that I loathe Alexandra Bracken's writing style. I follow her on social medias and things, and she seems like a wonderfully lovely person. I love all of her home renovation stuff and her dog, and like she seems great, but her writing style just does not work for me. This was picked for our February book club pick for House Salt, and I was like, fine, if you all want to read this, I will read it. I will succumb to the torture of Alexandra Bracken. I haven't liked anything I've read by her. I have a whole like rant video from when I read Passenger somewhere in the depths of my channel. I don't enjoy her writing. I think it's very slow and very heavy and very dense for YA. Like it just feels like there's like it's walking through molasses the whole time you're in the story plot. And Lore was absolutely no different. No different. I have to be honest and say that I didn't even finish this book. I got to, I think, the end of part 4, like right into the 5th part of the book, and I had like about 100 pages left, and I was like, I could not gather any ounce of caring to continue reading the story. Like, I did not give one fucking iota of care about what happened to any of these characters. They were so one-dimensional. There was like, they were so flat, and there was just nothing to them. There was no depth. There was no conviction. The plot was weak and soupy, and just, there was like nothing there to grab onto. So if you have no plot and you have no characters, like, what's the reason to continue reading? There's not one. There wasn't even like a great hinge of a mystery to really like hook you to continue. Lore follows our main character, Lore. The mythology of this world is very weird. There's like every 7 years, there's the gods, the Greek gods come down to earth, and they battle each other, and whoever survives gets to live on to the next game. And there are houses that are based off of like the Greek heroes, and they are like bloodline descendants. So we have like the Perseus house and the Jason house and Achilles, and they're all engaged in helping the gods with their fighting. And there's like only a few gods left because so many of them have been destroyed in the past. And the villain was just this mustache twirling villain. Like, there wasn't anything to him other than he was clearly a shitty guy. We have some more creativity. The twists didn't even feel rewarding or feel earned. They were just there. I just really was not impressed with this one at all. We did do a whole discussion for this for House Salt. I think it's on Sam's channel from Thoughts on Tomes, and I would recommend checking that out if you want to hear more of my thoughts, but I was really displeased. I did not rate this because I don't typically rate books that I don't finish. But on a upswing of a happier note, next I read Serpent Dove by Shelby Mahurin. I think I listened to this one on audiobook as well, and this one I absolutely adored. I had a feeling that I would really like this book based on everybody else's critiques and things of it. It is this Parisian historical inspired like fantasy land where we're following our main character who's a witch, and she's living in secrecy because witches are being hunted to like extinction. Gets into this scuffle, this compromised position with like a police of the church whose name is Reed. And because of his status and like who he is in society, they don't want to taint his reputation by him being found with a woman. So the Archbishop has them get married. Unwittingly, Reed has no idea that the thing that he is supposed to be hunting and murdering and, you know, expunging from the world is his wife. They hate each other, and all the while they're slowly starting to fall for one another. I love stories like this. It's just like chef's kiss, so perfect. It hits every button, every box for me. It's just so good. The angst, the romance, the tension, everything, the setting. I loved this book. It's told in dual perspective. You get Reed and you get Lou, and I just really loved them. I loved the side characters. There's a couple different like types of witches. We have a blood witch involved as well, and then there's like courtesans. It was so much fun. It was exactly what I was hoping it to be. It kind of feels a little like Sarah J. Maas-esque. Like anything that's come out since Throne of Glass that is similar to Throne of Glass, I'm always really hesitant and excited to pick up because I really like that story structure and like those tropes that are used in Throne of Glass, but if I can find them in other things that are better, then that's awesome. And I just really liked this. I thought it was so much fun. I can't wait to read the second book, and then the third book comes out this year, and you better believe that I plan to read them both. I gave this, I think, a 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely 5 out of 5 stars. It was phenomenal. The audiobook was phenomenal. I think the 2 narrators did a fantastic job. It was so much fun. That is definitely, I think, my favorite book from this group of 5 books that I've read, which is saying a lot considering the next book that I picked up. The next book that I read, which took me an age to read because it's so long, was Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. I finally did the thing. I read this book. Oh my God. I have been putting off this book since like, what, 2018 is when it came out, and I've just continually put it off for I don't even know what reason at one point. but I finished reading or rereading the original series and I was like, this is the time, I'm gonna do it. So I read it this year and I vlogged the whole experience. The video's up on my channel if you wanna go and watch me have a mental moment for this book. I had a lot of feelings, but essentially this is the 7th and the final book in the Throne of Glass series, the culmination, the ending of the Celaena Sardathian era for Sarah J Maas. And I just really fucking enjoyed this. This was a good ending. Like, this was what I was hoping this series ending would be. There was pain, but not too much pain. There was sacrifice, but not too much sacrifice. Characters died, but I just really felt like satisfied at the end of this book. Like, the world was where I wanted it to be. The characters were where I wanted them to be. The reveals that I was hoping for did come to fruition. Like, I really felt that everything was ticked off really nicely. She did a really good job ending a really long series that had a lot of things going on. I definitely felt like very overwhelmed while reading this book. There were so many different areas that the characters were traveling in, and they were all traveling separately and they were all doing their own things, and I definitely found it to be like a little overwhelming at times, but in like the best way, because it was just babies out on adventures, doing things, saving the world, which is exactly what I wanted. And I loved all the character moments that we got. There was some really great action. There were some phenomenal plot twists that totally caught me off guard. I did not bawl like I did at the end of A Court of Wings and Ruin. I sobbed through a majority of that book. This one I didn't sob quite or anywhere near that level, but I did tear up a few times. I really did enjoy this, and I'm happy with how the series ended, and I'm glad I finished it, and I'm glad that it was written the way that it was, and I feel satisfied and content and sane that Throne of Glass is still one of my favorite series, and I will absolutely be rereading those books for years to come and sharing them with anybody that will take them from me. Anyone who wants a recommendation on that book, I'm willingly going to give it to them. It changed and shaped so much of my reading preferences, and it has really, like, it was the spark that led me to everything else. Like, yes, I've read better things in Throne of Glass, and yes, like, there are better things out there, but I wouldn't know to look for those things or to be interested in those things had I not read and loved Throne of Glass. So I gotta give credit to it, because I wouldn't know my reading preferences without it. I gave that book a 5 out of 5 stars. You damn well know it. And the last book that we're gonna be talking about today is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klein, which was our March book pick for House Salt. Yes, it was March. There's a whole live show for this one as well, but this was a really hard book for us to discuss because it was really just like a fun, lighthearted, sweet, heartwarming story. I read this book in one day, and it was just one of those books where you just sit down and you can just like read it in one day. It's not too stressful, it's not too overwhelming, it's not too depressing. It's just like a really happy, fun thing to get immersed in for several hours and then to set aside and move on. It's like a really great like pick-me-up kind of book. I know this is like a raging favorite on BookTube right now. People are absolutely loving it, and I understand why. I just don't think I read it at like the right time for me, but I can see if you read this book at the right time, this is going to be a long-lasting book for people. So Linus works for this, it reminds me of like the Ministry of Magic. I don't know why, but he works for this ministry that is in charge of documenting and regulating and keeping track of like all the magical folk in this version of our world. And he is in charge of going to orphanages or like halfway houses, or check on these children to make sure that they are being well taken care of. And if not, he'll recommend that the orphanage be closed. Based on his like tremendous track record, he's sent out to this special orphanage that specializes in like special children. So like the misfit children that are too different to be placed in any normal orphanage. And while he is there, he really falls for this very unique group of kids that I loved. They have some of the most eccentric, weirdest powers. They have such off-the-wall personalities, but they're also sweet, and they're so heartwarming, and they're so just like accepting of each other and of him. It was really fun and refreshing to read a story like that after like the tremendously terrible year of 2020. Like, this was just like a light, happy, fun story, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like a much more upbeat, happy, joyful version of the Way We're Children series. Like if you like that, you might really enjoy this. And I did really enjoy this. I think I gave it a 4. Yeah, like a 3.75, just below a 4. It was fun. It's not something that will sit in my feelings very long term, but it's something I would recommend to somebody else should they need like a really great happy pick-me-up. I think this would be a great book recommendation. Those were the next 5 books that I read in 2021, which means we are basically caught up on my reading. I really haven't been reading that much, as I mentioned previously. I've really been struggling with finding the time to dedicate to reading. But I'm trying to be like okay with that. Yes, reading is fun and reading is great, but I don't need to spend all my time escaping my life anymore in reading. Like we can enjoy life and read at the same time. This means I don't have as much to talk about on YouTube, which is a bummer, but maybe that means I can do like other fun videos I've always been putting off. We'll see. We'll see what comes of my content in the future. Hopefully there will be content in the future. That's the main goal. I would love to talk to you guys in the comments about any of the books that I read. Please tell me what your thoughts were, if you've read them, and if you would like to follow me on any other platforms. My Instagram and Twitter handles are on the screen now. I'm a little bit more active on Instagram than anywhere else, so if you want to keep up with me, that's the place to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I will talk to you very soon. Bye!